Ish. Let me explain. I need to explain something. Today, how do I explain this? We're going to watch Let Me Explain. Studios.
Oh!
Rebecca Parham, we are back for round 3. I absolutely adore this channel. It's got something different. There's something special about Rebecca's videos. I just can't put my finger on it, but I wish someone could explain it to me. Wait a minute. Today, we are going to look at some of the essential viewing, which actually also ties into the new stuff. We are looking at the Daycare Stories saga. And then we're gonna finish off with one quick silly one. So people, are you ready? Once this is done, you better make sure you check out her channel or I'm coming for you. We're gonna have a problem if you don't support the original creator. Daycare Stories. We're gonna do this one, then we're gonna do the sequel, and then we're gonna do the squeakquel. Okay, here we go. Robert IDK, let me explain. Studios. 3, 2, 1, go. Soothing.
Oh, hello, my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers of my little oodle-lollies. Rebecca Parham here. So, did you know I was a daycare kid?
No.
Probably not, because I've never mentioned it before. Makes sense, given that mom and dad were both working parents, and leaving one's infant at home alone is generally considered problematic.
Bad.
Now, I know it might be hard to believe, but I haven't always been the pinnacle of refinement and maturity that you see before you today. No. As a kid, I was a bit of a rascal. For example, the box story.
The box story. Yeah, no, I did not know you were a daycare kid. However, if you gave me 3 guesses after looking at the title and thumbnail, I could have maybe put it together, but I might need it explained to me.
Now at this daycare, we had a big playroom, and in this playroom, there was a dark little alcove where custodial stuff and equipment was kept all the time, and one morning during playtime, I noticed someone had left a large box there.
Ooh.
Big enough for a child to hide behind.
Yes.
Now there's a concept that I call kid logic, and it's basically just a name for that randomness that kids possess, or the absurdity that is their reasoning sometimes. For example, when I saw that box, that's when my kid logic kicked in, and I said, I'm gonna hide behind that box for as long as possible and see what happens. This is a great idea.
Yeah, that's so stupid. Do kids even do that now? Now that we have so much more fun stuff to do as kids? No, well, not me, but kids now. The video games are so much more fun than hiding behind a box. Can you imagine how much pointless, boring stuff kids used to do before video games existed at all? Now, me personally, hiding behind a box, you're not gonna catch me doing that as a child. Or now. But what I would do as a child, no, not behind the box. Put me in the box, tape it up, and roll me around, baby. Roll me around. That was what I did in boxes. And hey, I know what you're thinking. Well, that explains a lot. Don't say that, that's mean.
So when the adults weren't looking, I slunk behind the box and crouched down, hiding myself entirely.
So fun.
I must have stayed there for half an hour before playtime ended, and
So
they ushered
fun.
all the kids away to a different room for a new activity. And funny enough, the adults were none the wiser I was gone. I've beat the system. Now this is what gets me. It took an hour of me hiding before an adult came back to the room and visibly began looking around for something. Couldn't imagine what it might be. Now where did I leave that small child? Must be around here someplace. I peeked my head up over the edge of the box to watch, but that proved to be my undoing. I was spotted. I've been compromised! I got in big trouble for that, of course. I was clearly not good at getting away with things when I was a kid, as you'll see in the next story.
What a boring thing to do. Just hiding behind a box. Rebecca, I guarantee what your class did would have been so much more fun. Like, what did your kid brain think? Like, oh, if I hide here for an hour and I'm not caught, I get kid experience points that I can use to level up my stealth? Like, what could you possibly see as the benefit? Like, the teacher's gonna come back, whoa, you did it, that's so cool. Yeah, said no teacher ever.
Now, one time at this daycare, they brought in a whiteboard, and you were only allowed to draw on it with adult supervision. Okay, I won't draw on the board. Instead, I stole a green dry erase marker when no one was looking and proceeded to decorate my face.
What?
Hey, listen, I didn't break the rules. They specifically said don't draw on the board. They said nothing about my face. I put the marker back and walked away, but was promptly spotted by an adult.
trust the balls.rng flu to release you from 9 flu-related symptoms, including headache and fever. Mad Lemon.
Becca, did you do this to yourself?
No.
It was
Did somebody
Timmy.
do this to you?
Yes.
Who did it?
Oh no.
Well, sheesh, I hadn't thought I had that far. And I honestly didn't even think to blame another kid. Instead,
Good.
that good old kid logic kicked in, and I came up with the
You
most
did it.
foolproof story that was sure to get my hide out of trouble.
I was minding my own business looking for something to play with, and then the Marcus came over and marked on my face. Nailed it.
Yes.
I will never understand how that daycare worker kept a straight face, but off to timeout I went.
Absolute goofery. Absolute tomfoolery. What is it also with kids drawing on themselves with marker? I was never a kid who did that because I just felt dirty when I did that. It's like, it's chemicals. It's like, even as a child, I was like, I don't want chemicals just on my skin. There were certain people in my class who would draw all over themselves with markers, and I can't imagine. I don't understand. Like, who would ever put ink just into their skin and just let their skin absorb ink? Who would ever do that? Seems really bizarre to me. I don't know why anyone would do that.
So, what are you in for? Disrupting the status quo? Whoa. I stuck gum up my nose.
Something I haven't mentioned yet is that my sister Rachel also went to this daycare, and because she's 2 years older than me, she got to be in the big kids program called the Superstars.
Whoa.
And I was so jealous that I took to calling them the Stupid
Stars!
Extra crispy on them.
It seems like you would care a lot about stupid stars, considering you are one.
I'll deal with you after class.
It is after class.
But one thing that will always be a significant memory to me is the day I discovered that the Superstars had a Nintendo.
Bro.
Better yet, they had Super Mario Brothers. And that, my little oodle-ollies, was the first time I ever saw a console
Wow.
video game. I thought I was looking at magic.
And you just had no idea how to turn that thing on. The NES to a child, like, I had no idea. I had no idea how to turn it on. Actually, I do wonder, anyone who was like a small child a few years ago, is it still hard to turn on a console by yourself? Because I remember turning on the Super Nintendo, it's like, oh, turn on this TV video, this box, boom. And plugging in the color-coded RCA cables, which seems like the easiest thing in the entire world, was just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna break the TV. How can you possibly figure this out? Is it still hard now? Because I feel like the number of steps hasn't gone down. Anyways, insight.
And that became the only thing I ever wanted to do at playtime, was go over to the big kid area and watch them play Super Mario Brothers. Don't you dare tell me that gamers aren't real entertainers. I was watching people play video games long before the Appliers and Septiceyes and D-Pies of the world made it a thing. But when
Nice.
playtime was over, the daycare staff had to pry me away, kicking and screaming from that TV set. One day, however, I came up with a brilliant idea. When they pulled me away from the big kids corner and sat me down with the other little kids, I proceeded to scream and cry that I miss my big sister. And nothing was gonna
you
console me
liar.
except being allowed to be with her in the big
You
kid
liar.
area. I guess the adults didn't know what else to do, so they actually let me go back over.
Holy Crayola, that actually worked.
Sure enough, I made a beeline for the Nintendo. Screw you, sis, I got video games to observe. It didn't take long for an adult to catch on, and I was eventually pulled away again.
I don't think I ever just cried to get what I wanted. I don't think that ever happened. I don't think there was ever a time when I was a kid where I cried and was, I mean, maybe as a baby. I mean, every baby does that, sure. But as a child, where I like could think my own thoughts and make decisions, I don't think I ever tried that. To me, it just seems like the worst thing ever. You know? Like if my child as a toddler or whatever ever tries that, it's like, bro, no, we are not gonna let that happen, bro. We are not letting that happen.
When I tried the same shtick, they gently said, Becca, you say you miss your sister, but every time you go over there, you just
play the
watch them play video
Nintendo."
games. Okay, maybe they had me there. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty solid accusation.
Yeah.
All right, grown up, I'll concede to you this time. But one day I'll be grown up, and I'll watch all the video games I want.
And now she does.
Don't you mean play them?
No.
Now, I've saved the best story for last. Even when I started kindergarten, there was no escaping this daycare. because one of the services they provided was picking up children from my elementary school and taking them back to the daycare where the parents could pick them up later. So every day, I didn't get picked up by a parent or get on a normal yellow school bus. I waited for a big white van. That sounds rather nefarious now that I say it out loud. But yeah, Rachel and I would wait for the van, pile in with the other kids, and go wait to get picked up at the daycare. And this was a routine my kindergarten teacher knew. She was a very good teacher and kept track of the way each of her students were supposed to go home.
Good.
So she would make sure I got in that van.
Good.
Well, I was getting a little bored of the routine. And here's good old kid logic again, because many of my classmates would get to walk home. And for some reason, I decided that was the cool thing to do.
No!
I aspired to walk home.
You got me beat on that one. I was a little wimp. I didn't want to walk in the streets by myself, the mean streets of Canada by myself. That does freak me out. And it's like, they talk about this, I don't know how real this is, but they talk about it's like more dangerous now. Because like the whole thing back in the day was like, oh, you could just let your kids out and run around the streets, and as long as you come back when the street lights come on, you're all good. But like, I don't think there were less killers at that time. I definitely don't think the world was safer. I think they just did that. But still, I was a wimp. It wasn't happening either way.
But that wasn't gonna happen with Miss Responsibility Pants botching my whole operation. So like the little
You
devil
ended
I
her
was, I waited until we had a substitute teacher. All right, here's your evil genius learner's permit, kiddo. When school ended that day, instead of getting into the daycare van, I hid behind a brick pillar and waited for the van to leave without me. Funny how my sister never said
that's
anything.
awful.
She must have been like, all right, I guess she died. As soon as the van left, I headed off on foot. My house was within walking distance, only about a mile away. But I began to think as I walked that no one was actually going to be at the house, and I had no way of getting inside. Probably should have thought of that before.
Just like the roof story. This is just like the roof story. Rebecca seems to like getting stranded in the most boring situations ever. She really likes to just chill behind a box in a closet, on the roof with nothing to do, and outside the house that you can't get in. Sounds like an absolute blast. It's a very good thing you discovered video games, Rebecca.
So instead of walking home, I made the executive decision to walk to the daycare instead.
Oh, good.
Now,
good.
I knew what I was doing was against the rules, because every single time I saw a white vehicle of any sort coming in the distance, I would duck behind a tree or bush as fast as I could. When I was so close that I could see the daycare up ahead, I noticed what was most definitely a white van approaching, and the only tree immediately available was thinner than me. So not only was this tree already insufficient at hiding me, but when I jumped behind it, I didn't think to put the tree between me and the line of sight of the van. So when the daycare staff approached, this is what they saw.
What the heck?
I'm revoking that evil genius learner's permit. They stopped the van, made me get inside, and guess who I found in the back seat?
Your sister.
The snitch that ratted me out. My own sister.
Good. It's good that she did.
How could you? We were brothers, you and I. Wait.
Honestly, this makes me wonder how many dumb things Rebecca would have gotten stuck in if her sister wasn't around. How could your sister do such a horrible thing as stop you from getting kidnapped? Absolutely despicable. I can't believe she would do that, you know? You poor, poor thing. Anyways, that was fun. And so now we can watch Rebecca's most recent video, Daycare Stories 2. This is that new. And since we're watching that new, you better make sure you're subscribed to Rebecca. Don't make me come after you. And I mean, if you want to, you know, also subscribe to this channel. That would be so cool. And if you haven't already booped